This is the Uptick Network Stock Day Podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Penny stock news and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a very exciting guest. He's one of the few pharma corps that I know out there, companies that actually have a product and actually have revenues. The name of the company is Nutra Pharma Corp. Well, they trade on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol NPHC. And the gentleman's name is, and he's the CEO, is Rik Deitsch. Rik, thank you for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, give me a little bit of background of yourself, a little bit of background of your company, and how you became the CEO.
Okay, it's my pleasure. Well, I'm a biochemist. I'm both a nutritional and a pharmaceutical biochemist. As a nutritional biochemist, I worked for the Rexall Sundown family of companies when Rexall Sundown was the largest manufacturer of dietary supplements on the planet.
Absolutely.
I designed a variety of different dietary supplements, conducted over 50 clinical studies for the Rexall companies, and really learned my way around the FDA processes and clinical trials. As a pharmaceutical biochemist, I did some consulting in drug discovery, working on primarily cancer drugs and working on peptide therapeutics. In fact, one of the first drugs I ever worked on was a pain drug from cone snail venom. So I really got into the concept of venomous animals and drugs from venomous animals. I've also co-authored 2 books, Are You Age-Wise? A Guide to Healthy Aging, and Invisible Killers, The Truth About Environmental Genocide, which is really about a guide to the environment. What are the toxins in the environment? How do they affect us? How do they get into our food, the water, the air? And once they get into our bodies, what do they do to us? How do they increase our risk for disease and dysfunction? And that book is used in a lot of college classrooms and environmental studies. Now, the work I did in cone snail venom, eventually I did some work in cobra venom, and a company, Nutra Pharma, was already in existence. It was founded in 2000. In 2002, the management came to me and said that they were interested in working with a company that was looking at venom therapeutics, therapeutic products from cobra venom for the most part, and they asked me to do some consulting. And by the end of 2002 and into 2003, I joined the company and started working with them and started collaborating and eventually took over Nutra Pharma as CEO to pull together the intellectual property we have today.
So let me ask you this, because I really don't get a lot of guys on my show that talk about cobras and venom and pharma altogether. So you're telling me that you actually extract the venom from a cobra snake and inject that into some sort of product?
It's a lot more complicated than that, but we use therapeutic peptides, small proteins that come from cobra venom, and now in fact, we had an announcement just last week that we're cloning the genes for alpha cobratoxin, a single peptide, for scale-up and use in our upcoming clinical studies in pediatric multiple sclerosis. But for our over-the-counter products, our pain drugs, Nyloxin, our private label products, and our pet product, Pet Pain Away for dogs and cats, we use native cobra venom. So yes, we have a snake farm that milks the cobras, purifies the venom, sterilizes it, and then we put it into our over-the-counter products.
Amazing, amazing. You know, there are hundreds of bio stock opportunities out there. What's make Nutra Pharma different and more attractive than any other small pharma companies?
Well, we're different for a variety of reasons. The first and foremost is we've really mitigated the risk to investors by having a revenue stream while we're working on our large drugs. So we have 21 patents, but we really have 3 key patents. We have and all 3 of those key patents were issued in the last 5 years. So we have a patent for use of cobra venom for autoimmune diseases, primarily multiple sclerosis. We have a patent for the use of these venom components as an antiviral drug, primarily HIV, but we've looked at other retroviruses. And then we have a patent for the treatment of pain. And so that covers a broad range of the applications that we have for these peptide therapeutics. The market for those is unbelievable. I mean, MS alone, multiple sclerosis alone, is considered to be a $15 to $18 billion marketplace.
Absolutely.
And and there's no decent drugs for the treatment of MS. Most MS drugs are immunosuppressive agents. They shut off your immune system, and so it slows down the forward progression of the disease. Our drug is an immunomodulating agent. It modulates the immune system, so it continues to work normally. But what we've seen in over 300 patients in open-label trials is that when they start using our drug, disease progression stops and symptoms improve over time. And there's no other drug in the market that's ever seen anything like that. We just got, last year, we got orphan designation for juvenile or pediatric multiple sclerosis, and we're moving forward with those trials. But when you look at other biotech companies that have these claims, moving into a phase 1, moving into a phase 2,
right.
phase 3 trials, they're broke. They have no money. They're constantly looking to raise cash, and it's a constant effort of dilution. And what we did is we took some of this intellectual property and we put it into over-the-counter products. So now we have Nyloxin in 7 different SKUs. We have pet pain away for dogs and cats. We have military-strength Nyloxin, which we're working with the VA and the U.S. military to launch that. And we're looking at several other continuing products or continuing SKUs for the products to gain revenue for Nutra Pharma, with the goal over the next 6 months to be completely cash flow positive, to be able to pay all the bills out of the kitty, out of the war chest that we're going to create with over-the-counter products. And so by doing so, we've mitigated the risk to investors by not having to go out and raise $100, $200, $300 million for these clinical studies. We believe that we'll pay for everything in-house, and when all is said and done, within the next 24 to 36 months, we'll be able to start out-licensing our drugs.
My guest today is Rik Deitsch. He is the CEO of Nutra Pharma Corp. Well, they trade on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol NPHC. If people wanted to pick up any of your products, can they go to your website? How do they find a little bit more out about your company?
Well, currently we do sell the products online at Nyloxin.com and PetPainAway.com. We're bringing on new distributors now all over the world. We're working in South Africa and Israel and Central and South America and Canada. But we're also working with some call centers to start rolling some things out. We've also worked with a company to start infomercials on Pet Pain Away, which should start in the next 30 days. So people are going to see more and more ways to get the product. Aside from that, we're in about 100 pharmacies and doctors' offices, and we're trying to expand that market as well. So the goal is by the middle of next year to be all over the stores, in the major stores throughout the country.
Do you have pharmaceutical reps, or do you outsource that?
Well, we used to have different distributors over the time, but different distributors have had a lot of false starts.
Right.
So recently we announced that we brought on Dan Oren to our board. He's our newest director, and he has extensive contacts in retail distribution and has been in retail distribution for the last 20 years. And so he's helping us now to roll out the products, and we're using his people, his call center, to really spike sales.
What are the short and midterms and long-term goals for the company, and what do you think the odds of hitting those goals? You say you produce revenues, or that anything substantial. Do you see that growth, and where's the revenues coming from?
Well, primarily revenue, as I said before, we've had a lot of false starts. We launched our first product in 2009, and we tried to be responsible. And so we made the product for a fixed cost. We sold it to a distributor bulk for a fixed cost of goods,
right.
And we knew what our sales were. And that distributor immediately got us into 35,000 stores. Everyone loved the product. It was really taking off. Our stock went nuts. We went from about 2 cents a share all the way up to $1 a share in intraday
wow.
trading. And everybody was excited. And then the distributor basically did everything wrong. They didn't do the advertising they were supposed to. They didn't pay for the advertising they purchased. They made a lot of mistakes on a product that everybody loved. And we had no control over that, and we were tied to that distributor so much so that when the distributor wound up suing CVS and suing Walgreens, they kind of took us down with them. So by the end of 2010 into 2011, all that product started being pulled off the shelves. At that time, I talked to some of the stores, and I talked to a guy at Walgreens. He said our product was the best product no one ever heard of. They love the product, but they just didn't get done. And so we had several other distributors. We had Henry Schein had us in their catalog for a while. New Vitality was going to launch us with infomercials, and everyone has always loved the product, but they just never were able to get across, to get the distribution across. And it's entirely their fault. So recently, well, not recently, about a year and a half ago, we started working with network marketing and a company called Lumaxa. We had a couple of incredible months of sales, but that went down over time. And that's pretty normal with network marketing. If it's not sustainable, it's going to decrease over time. And so now with Dan Oren, we're setting up call centers, we're doing our infomercials, we expect those sales to start spiking, and as I said, to be cash flow positive within the next 3 to 6 months. Primarily, it's going to be on the Nyloxin line of products. There's 7 SKUs of Nyloxin. We have an oral spray and a topical gel available in regular and extra strength in squeeze bottles and roll-ons. We also have a professional size 8-ounce pump for doctors' offices. We have Pet Pain Away for dogs and cats, which is a miracle product for dogs and cats. Whereas there's a choice of hundreds of drugs for humans for pain, there's nothing for dogs and cats.
You're absolutely right.
They have Demerol or Tramadol, which just knocks them out, or NSAIDs, which just cause nausea and diarrhea, and dogs can only use a little bit of it, and all pain drugs cause kidney failure in cats. So we launched Pet Pain Away last year, and we've had veterinarians call the product a miracle. I mean, dogs and cats love it. It's a chicken-flavored oral gel. We will be coming out with a chewable next year for the stores, to roll out into the stores. And it really is a life-changing experience for dogs and cats. Elderly dogs and cats turn into puppies and kittens and run around the house like amazing. And even if they have traumatic injury, hip dysplasia, things like that, they have incredible results on the Pet Pain Away. So we really think that alone could be a huge market for the company in the next 12 to 24 months. So the short-term goals is really just that: get those sales up in Nyloxin, in Pet Pain Away, and then we're looking at some micro markets, into the sports markets, into things like for women's feet, where they sell women's shoes, to have products just for that. All about pain and inflammation with our products. And then for the midterm, we're really pushing the MS orphan designation. So we received orphan designation from the FDA last year for pediatric multiple sclerosis. We know the product is safe. We know it's incredibly effective. So now we're moving forward with protocol development. We announced just the other day that we've cloned the genes for scaling up production of the drug. And the goal is to be in a phase 2 clinical study in the first quarter next year. We're already talking to principal investigators and sites of care to do the clinical study. We expect the clinical will be scheduled for 6 to 12 months. And so by the end of next year, theoretically, if we hit all the numbers, we could be completed a phase 2 clinical study in MS by the end of next year. And that would really be our midterm goal. And once we're out of a phase 2, our expectation is to have a successful phase 2 and then license the MS drug.
Absolutely. Well, are you looking more with the FDA or maybe the EU?
No, we did. It's funny. We did an EU study years ago in adrenal mononephropathy. We did that in London, and we had some really great results there. But the first comment we got when we started working in adrenal mononephropathy is the FDA said, "Why didn't you do your studies in the U.S.?" And they had a lot of complaints from U.S. patients. And I said, you know what, that's exactly right. If we're able to get orphan designation with a waiver of fees, fast track, all the things you get with orphan designation,
that's right.
We should do it with the FDA and with the FDA's blessing. And, of course, once you get things through the FDA, it's accepted everywhere in the world. So that's really the goal, is to navigate the FDA process. And recently we just added Dale Vanderputten, Dr. Dale Vanderputten, to our executive team. He's our Chief Scientific Officer, and he has over 30 years experience in drug discovery. He used to work at the NIH, and so he's a great addition to the team. He's really going to take the reins and run with these clinical studies.
Well, at a market cap of $2.1 million, stock price at 1 cent, it seems to me you guys are very undervalued for a pharma company that has products, has the revenues, and have some big things in the pipeline. My guest today is Rik Deitsch. He is the CEO of Nutra Pharma Corp. They trade on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol NPHC. In closing here, Rik, is there anything that you would like to get out to my listeners that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you just said. You know, we have our all-time low valuation for the company. If you look at what we have 21 patents. I have a warehouse full of product. We have growing revenues. We have orphan designation for pediatric MS from the FDA. I mean, it's absolutely insane that we have this ridiculously low market valuation. All I can say is that represents a buying opportunity for any investor. The stock, by hook or crook, is going to start moving up. If people ask why we have this low valuation, there's a couple things that happen. You know, we had some frivolous lawsuits filed against us a few years ago from former employees. We had distributors that just didn't do what they were supposed to do. But primarily in the last 18 months, we had to take convertible debt. And like anyone knows, with a public company, especially a penny stock, once you have that convertible debt, it can be a death spiral.
That's exactly right.
Companies start to convert the debt, and they start to dilute, and they just sell and sell and sell without any thought about what the actual value of the company is. And that's where the stock price started going down. And all I can tell you is that becomes a buying opportunity for any legitimate investor, because as we've now cleared out a lot of this convertible debt and we're moving the company forward, revenues alone will carry the company. We'll be able to pay off any outstanding debt that we have left and move everything forward. Tufts University published something a few years ago that said, how do you look at a biotech and value a biotech? And they gave values to things like preclinical studies and toxicology and phase ones and things like that. At a bare minimum, our market value should be between $35 and $45 million. You know, with about 200 million shares outstanding, that's at least 20 to 30 cents a share. And that's at a bare minimum. And here we are sitting around a penny. So we really believe as we clean up the float, as we get some new investors, new eyes on the stock, as we start, creating the revenues I think we'll create, we're going to see that valuation increase dramatically.
What we learned today is Nutra Pharma has turned the corner. They're projected to go forward. They yield in their ways. They're going forward, knowing that they did do a toxic debt, but that as soon as going to be behind them, and brighter days are going to be forward. I want to thank you, Rik, for coming on the show today. I wish you nothing but the best. We're going to check back with you guys in a couple of months to see how you guys are doing.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.